Hi, this is Karen from the Mindful Earthkeeper, and I wanted to give you a little bit of a brief recap of what we did yesterday in our first day of our whole brain living from Mindful Earthkeepers course. And I wanted to start out for a plug for this book, which is not my book. I'm not getting anything for this, but I really love this book, Whole Brain Living. And one of the things that I find so really interesting about it is the idea that we have four brain centers in our mind that kind of create our character. And it's the left and right amygdala and the left and right hippocampus, at least according to this book. And from my experiences of what the author describes in this book, it rings very true. And they also correlate with the types of people that I've often seen working on mindful earth keeping or being people who want to do something good in this world. And so I just wanted to introduce my ideas about this and as well as combine them with some proven mindfulness techniques. So today I'm just going to go through, if you would like to, you can go through the same thing we did last night, where we're going to be playing around with our brain and trying to access these four centers. So let me talk about them. I start with the survivor instinct that we have that comes out of our left amygdala, which is our feeling center. The amygdala helps us feel with our emotions. And as this author Jill Bolt Taylor talks about, again, we are feeling beings who happen to think. And then our hippocampus is this add-on that has happened as evolution happened. So survivors are the folks and the part of our brain. If you align with the survivor part of your brain, and that's what you mostly react out of in your life, you're someone who's very worried and anxious. You can be depressed. You are looking at the world from what is endangering me and what's making me less safe. And so we get bombarded all the time with negative news because all of us tend to look for the negative first. We rely on our left amygdala to tell us when something is a danger for us. But if we go too far into that, we can get caught up in fear and anxiety and stress. So that is what I would call the survivor's character in each of us. But if you look at the world around you and the people that you work with, you might see people who have that survivor's kind of approach to life. And it's also an approach that we actually need as we look into the future and into our world as it is in terms of dealing with environmental challenges. The second of the different brain types is the left hippocampus. And it is associated with how we make decisions in our lives. It can be considered our ego. It's how we see ourselves as individuals versus just our own as a mess of everything else. We have boundaries because we have a left brain. And so I call this the leader's piece of our character. We all have the ability to lead our own life as long as our left hippocampus is healthy. And then we can move into the right amygdala, which is the other half of that emotional center in us. And this is the part of us where if we are in contact with it, we are happy. It's where our happiness and our joy and fun comes from, that particular feeling part of ourselves. So it's really important if we want to be happy people to connect with that part of ourselves. And I call that the artisan's center as well, because it's where our artistic, creative things come from. So we'll be talking about this a lot more as we go through the 12 weeks of this course. So I'm just trying to give a high level idea of why these different aspects of ourselves are in each of us. And the last piece is our right hippocampus. And it's the part of ourselves that lets us connect with everything else, or we feel a connection. It's the part of ourselves that feels a connection to all that is when we're out in nature. It's the part of ourselves that feels bliss when we're in meditation. because meditation has been proven, especially if you're an advanced meditator, that you can shut off the left side of your brain when you're in meditation. And that's the part of us that does that. So what I'm going to lead you through these experiences of these 4 types today. But first of all, we're going to do something we did last night where we're just going to calm ourselves down. So we're going to take 3 deep breaths, and we're going to really be calming our mind and our heart at the same time. So we're going to breathe in as deeply as you can, and then as you exhale, exhale a little bit longer. And we're going to do this 3 times. This is the second time, and we're letting out. You can do it any way you want. And then 1/3 time. And if you just do the simple thing of doing 3 longer breaths, especially emphasizing the exhale, you will slow your heart rate down and slow your mind down. And it's important that we get calm if we want to access our hippocampus. Because when we're stuck in those, the amygdala, particularly the left amygdala, and we're afraid, we can't access the hippocampus. And I know this can sound very technical right now, but we're going to be going into this in order to understand ourselves, mindfulness, and how we can be more effective as Earthkeepers this fall. So let's just try this other little exercise. Now that we're calmer, I want you to focus on your right hand. And all you have to do is try to feel the palm of your hand. Just feel, you can feel the blood flowing through if you're really, really good at noticing. But just see what's going on. Feel that. Now turn your palm, you can, if you had your palm up, just turn it over. I'm just going to relax that. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with our left hand. And focus on the palm of your left hand. Hopefully that's fairly easy. We're not really worrying which part of our brain is focusing here, but it's your right brain controls your left hand, so, and vice versa. So now we're done with that. Now what I'd like you to do is take both hands in any way you want. Some people were doing this, and we're doing that. But now focus on the palms of both hands at the same time. I feel a little hard to do. This is integrating your left and right brain, of focusing on those 2 different aspects of yourself. And so that's just a little sense of what we're going to be trying to do is integrate over the course of these 12 weeks. But the first thing before we integrate, we're going to do some differentiation. And so let's today do something where you look at the 4 different types of your brain. We're going to get a very brief, rough experience of that. So if you want, you can close your eyes. It might help you to do this. Just go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine something that is stressing you out. That is really, it doesn't have to be terrible. It can be just something that is worrying you. Maybe it's climate change. Maybe it's getting to work tomorrow morning, or having to cook dinner tonight, or whatever it might be. Just go ahead and feel the stress. Feel anxiety. If you're already depressed, you're probably in that place of this, and this is your left amygdala. And just notice how that feels when you're thinking thoughts that are stressful and full of anxiety. And it doesn't have to be even incredibly anxious. And now we're going to go ahead and move up to your left hippocampus, which is what I was calling the leaders area. Now I want you to imagine that you have a plan for something. And it could be as simple as going out to get the paper in the morning, or to go to work and do a particular project. Imagine how you're going to start something very simple, and imagine yourself planning that out. And notice how it feels to plan. and to start something and imagine finishing it. And that's just a very high level, brief taste of what the left hippocampus is like. Now we're going to go to the right amygdala. Now, this time I really would recommend you close your eyes and imagine yourself doing something you really love to do. It could be painting, it could be running, it could be doing yoga, it could be doing working on a scientific problem that you really want to solve. It could be anything that you love to do, and just imagine yourself doing it. And this is what a lot of athletes really train to do. They imagine themselves succeeding in something. And what's interesting about our brain is it actually will activate those muscles even if you're not moving, if your mind works on them. And this is drawing into that right amygdala, that artisan part of ourselves, the part of us that flows, that goes with the flow. And then the fourth piece, this is where we're just going to imagine ourselves meditating, or you can imagine yourself out in a beautiful place. What we're going to try to do is just for a few moments, focus on your breath. This is what we would do in meditation. If you want, you can do a little bit of shamatha meditation with me where you don't close your eyes and you just look forward and you focus on your breath for about 30 seconds. Most of us can't stop our thoughts, just so that you know this, but although I've learned, as I've meditated more, it happens to me sometimes, and especially in 30 seconds. But when you do get into that state of no thought, you can be in that state without doing meditation, but that is your right hippocampus. That's that state of being connected to everything that is. And again, that's why I'm calling it connectors for people who identify with that. Now, this was a very simple overview of a book that a neuroscientist wrote after she had a stroke. She had a stroke in her left side of her brain, which didn't allow her to use it at all for quite a while. And she had to, over the course of 8 years, I guess she didn't have to, but she chose to regain the function in her left side of her brain. Now, what she says in this book is how wonderful it felt to be in the right side of her brain all the time, that she, was at peace, she was blissful, but she didn't know who she was, she didn't know how to really move about in the world. And the point of her book, and this whole book, and what we're going to be doing for the next 12 weeks as we try to integrate that with earth keeping and being sustainable, is we're going to be integrating these different pieces that we all have and looking at how do we use them now. So my question for you is, do you know how much you use each part of your brain? Most of us don't. And so the task I'm going to give you, if you choose to take it, is to look for the next week or couple weeks, or even take the whole fall season if you want to, and look at how much of your time are you spending in survival mode, in that left amygdala, and are you fearful and anxious all the time? How much of the time are you taking on planning and leading and doing linear kinds of things in that left hippocampus? How much of your time are you in flow state where you're happy, doing something you really enjoy doing? And you don't even have to really enjoy doing it to be in that happy state, which is kind of an interesting thing. And then the fourth piece is, how much time do you spend letting your mind rest, and especially your left brain, so that you can connect with this sort of healing piece of your right hippocampus. And so just think about that. I hope if you've watched this video that you found it informative. What we're going to be doing over the next 12 weeks is working with these 4 centers. We're going to be working with the brain, and we're going to be working with how do we work as people who care about earth keeping or doing good in the world or just having a good life ourselves. How do we use our survival instinct? How do our part of our brain? How do we show leadership? How do we live artfully? And then how do we connect to something bigger than ourselves? So I hope you'll enjoy coming to the Tuesday evening different course that we have. It's about half an hour a week, so it's not a very big time commitment. But over the course of these weeks, it will add up into what I hope is a very useful and maybe even a profound experience for you. And we'll keep in touch, and I'll be sharing more as this course goes by in the next few weeks. Thank you so much for listening.